أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. لا أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. قد قامت الصلاة. قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. استووا اعتدلوا. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. الله. سمع الله لمن حمده.
الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والضحى والليل إذا سجى ما ودعك ربك وما قلى وللآخرة خير لك من الأولى ولسوف يعطيك ربك فترضى ألم يجدك يتيما فآوى ووجدك ضالا فهدى ووجدك عائلا فأغنى فأما اليتيم فلا تقهر وأما السائل فلا تنهر وأما بنعمة ربك فحدث. الله. سمع الله لمن حمده.
الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله. الله أكبر.
سمع الله لمن حمده.
الله أكبر. 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 السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. Can you hear me back there? Can you hear me? All praise belong to Allah, Lord of the worlds. We testify that there is no worthy of worship nor true God except Allah. He has no partners and no equal. And I testify that Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, is his final prophet and messenger. And I ask Allah Almighty to shower abundantly His peace, praise, compassion, mercy, and blessings upon our dear and beloved Prophet Muhammad, his family, companions, followers, and upon all of us gathered here in his blessed house. Ameen, Allahumma ameen, especially upon our sisters and brothers in Gaza and Palestine and oppressed brothers and sisters all over the world. Dear brothers and sisters, before we begin, a gentle reminder that we ask you to train your young ones to sit quietly during salah and during lectures and khawatir near you. If they cannot sit quietly, we have babysitting in room C109, the community building where the gymnasium building is, in room 109. Brother Jani, I'm getting complaints that they can't hear very well. Jazakumullah khair. Tonight's beautiful hadith في باب الورع وترك الشبهات, under the chapter that Imam Nawawi rahimahullah designated as the chapter of avoiding things that may be controversial. We're talking about religious matters. And in this particular hadith, it is narrated by Sayyidina Anas radiallahu anhu, and as I have mentioned before, Sayyidina Anas radiallahu anhu was raised in the prophetic household, in the household of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. And how many years did he spend in the service of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? 10 years, 1 decade. He was absorbing all the nur and all the beautiful teachings and character and observations that he can. And in this case, he actually recorded in this observation. And he says, أن النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم وجد تمرة في الطريق فقال لولا أني أخاف أن تكون من الصدقة لأكلتها. والحديث متفق عليه. Sayyidina Anas, may Allah be pleased with him, says that the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, one day he found a date. MashaAllah, Ramadan is down the corner. Ramadan is around the corner. May Allah, Allahumma ballighna Ramadan. وأعنا فيه على الصيام والقيام وانصر فيه عبادك المظلومين المستضعفين. So the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, one day was walking and he found a date on the road. And he said, لولا أني أخاف أن تكون من الصدقة لأكلتها. He said, if I don't fear that this could be possibly from the dates of sadaqa, I would have eaten this. I would have eaten it. And this very short hadith, but it has some lessons for us to actually take. One, we see the humility of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Down to earth. A date on the floor, it's clean, he's willing to eat it. And number two, his extremely high dignity. How? Many ways. One is that it is prohibited for him to consume sadaqa and zakat. Why? Because he is so dignified that he is above receiving sadaqah from someone. The Prophet ﷺ said, اليد العليا خير وأحب إلى الله من اليد السفلى وفي كل خير. أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. The upper hand, meaning the giving hand, is better and more beloved to Allah than the receiving hand. No one could be better than Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And therefore, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam cannot receive or accept for himself the consumption of zakah or sadaqah, because no one can be more dignified than him. Do we understand? So we see in this hadith two things. One, the humility, and one, the extreme high God-granted dignity. Extremely high God-granted dignity to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam by prohibiting the sadaqah consumption. And we also, back to the topic of the chapter, learn that this may or may not have been sadaqah. The Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't say definitively, this is sadaqah, therefore I will not eat it. He didn't say that. He says, I fear the possibility of this being from the dates of sadaqah, therefore, if it weren't, I would have definitely eaten it. So he avoided something that could be permissible for him because it had some shak, some possibility that it may not be acceptable for him to consume. How do we apply this? This is a moment in the day of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as he's walking. How can we apply this to ourselves? When we see things that are prohibited, avoid it 100%. ما أمرتكم به فأتوا منه ما استطعتم وما نهيتكم عنه فانتهوا. The Prophet ﷺ said, what I forbid for you or what I warn against, avoid it. And what I ask you to do, do as much as you can. وَمَا آتَاكُمُ الرَّسُولُ فَخُذُوهُ وَمَا نَهَاكُمْ عَنْهُ فَانْتَهُوا Whatever the messenger gives you, take it. And whatever the messenger forbids you from, avoid it. This is when it comes to matters of halal and haram, permissible and prohibited. But yet this is a step higher than that. It's a step where something may be controversial, may be wrong. If because of that chance of the possibility that it could be wrong, we take it upon ourselves to make the decision to avoid it, just so we can be safe on the safe side. Just so we can be on the safe side. This is a step, a high level of iman and taqwa. It is called wara'. And let me also touch upon a point that's very important. Wara' is only applicable to the person that's applying it upon themselves and no one else. I will say this again. If there is something maybe not, maybe controversial, maybe not, right? If I choose to avoid it out of wara', high level of caution, that's only applicable to me. I cannot say because I am wari', you must avoid it. Do you understand? I cannot force you to apply wara'. I can encourage, but I can never force it on others. It's very different than halal and haram. Halal and haram, Allah made prohibited, completely avoid. But when some things that may be those gray areas, it is safer to avoid, less controversial to avoid. When a person chooses to avoid those things, it is applicable to themselves, and you must not apply wara' to somebody else. That's very important for us to understand that. And this teaches us Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam being the leader of the believers. He was concerned to mistakenly or unintentionally consume a date from wealth that is not allowed for him to consume from. And this would be the sadaqat of the believers. Meaning, he would be taking from public funds one date, possibly by mistake. He avoided that. Today, leaders have open checks. The entire mizaniyah, budget for an entire country, if they even have budgets in some of those countries, open. Consume whatever they choose. And subhanallah, it goes beyond needs to desires and having palaces and having, while their people are dying of hunger at times or don't have basic life needs and necessities. Big difference in leadership qualities. Rasulullah ﷺ, being the most righteous leader, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam, he avoided wrongfully or mistakenly taking a date's worth, a date that could or could not be from the amwal of the sadaqat, when today we have leaders that behave completely the opposite. It is important for us to actually learn from that. And whenever we are in a leadership position, be more conscious of the responsibilities and the budgets that we run. Be conscious for ourselves, not for spending it in the right way. Big difference. Again, let me clarify. Subhanallah, shaitan has very funny tricks. Brother Jani, if you can fine tune this a little bit, the microphone is still not clear enough. Shaitan will come to a person who's in charge of a budget. They're in a leadership position, a responsibility position, and trick them into not spending that budget accordingly to its rightful yani expenditure purposes. Under the name or the excuse, it's an amana, it's a sadaqa, it's an amana. No, an amana means you use it accordingly. Do you understand? So for instance, someone has a budget of X amount, okay? And they're in charge of, mashallah, yani, running this particular institution, whether it's a masjid or an orphanage or a school, and they have enough and they have a surplus. And this money is donated for the purpose of being spent on X, Y, and Z. And they could be running it with, mashallah, properly, and things would be functioning well, but instead they will skimp, and they will be stingy, and they will cut corners, and they will avoid spending, but they will hoard the sadaqah or that budget under the assumption or that they are self-justifying that this is an amana, I have to be extra cautious, I have to be extra careful, to a point where it becomes counterproductive, that it doesn't serve the purpose where this donation is actually given to you so you can spend it on these 1, 2, or 3. Do you understand? This is a trick of the shaitan. It's an amana. Ya akhi, go buy nice soap for the masjid. Why do you buy the cheapest one? Buy the nicest soap, the one you buy for your house. I don't want to advertise for which companies, but you and I know which nice soaps you use in your bathrooms when we come and wash our hands in your homes. But no, I'll buy the cheapest one for the masjid. Ya akhi, you have a $100,000 surplus. Go put it. Buy for the house of Allah. No, the cleaning supplies. You ever go into a masjid and you find cleaning supplies? Or they're clean? MashaAllah. Our masjid here is very clean. May Allah bless. You and I know what kind of cleaning supplies we use for our home. We know which one the fragrance that smells good, which kind that cleans this way, which wipes, we all know. Including toilet paper for our bathrooms, azzakumullah, right? We all know these things. But we go to the masjid, the same people. You go to their masjid and you find the cleaning supplies that gives you an instant headache. Migraine sometimes, right? And you find the toilet paper that's the cheapest and worst. I'm giving you live, real examples of how the shaitan can trick us to be extreme one way or another. To be someone who's careless, like some of the leaders that will just consume the budgets of their entire countries, and they take it for their personal use and gains, and some others that will be so stingy that they don't use the budgets accordingly, and the quality that they designate for the masjid or the orphanage or the school will be so much inferior to the quality that they use, whether it's cleaning supplies of their house or the toilet paper of their bathrooms versus the bathrooms in the masjid or the school, or the air freshener that they will use, or whatever quality. Do you follow me? So this is another trick of the shaitan. So while we are studying this beautiful hadith, it is important for us to apply things properly. And as Allah Azza wa Jal says, وَالَّذِينَ إِذَا أَنفَقُوا لَمْ يُسْرِفُوا وَلَمْ يَقْتُرُوا وَكَانَ بَيْنَ ذَلِكَ قَوَامًا. And those, when they spend, they are not stingy and cheap. I apologize, the sound is not good. Somewhat. And those, when they spend, they are not wasteful, and they are not stingy, and they are in between. It's very important for us to keep in mind. And it is important for us to have the same level or exceeding the level of our home and the qualities that we have in our personal lives and homes when we are in charge of a masjid or a school or an orphanage. This is from the fiqh of the seerah. During the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sahbihi wa sallam, they built his masjid 100 dirah, about 100 yards long, 100 yards
wide. They had 3 yards foundations. They had palm trees as pillars. They had the sa'af al-nakhl, the palm leaves, to be the ceiling. This is what they used, and they used the mud bricks. That was the condition of the Muslims at the time. That's what they could afford. That's the level of buildings that they had constructed for their masjid. We're applying apples to apples here. The Prophet ﷺ passes away about 10 years later. And Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu becomes Khalifa for approximately 2 years. And then Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu becomes Khalifa for approximately 10 years. During those 10 years, the Muslims became extremely wealthy. Extremely wealthy. Islam spread the furthest, and the economy was like sky high. So Muslims naturally became wealthier. They're doing business, they're doing their affairs. And basically they went back, tear down their small home, and upgrade it as you and I would upgrade our homes, right? So now their homes became proportional to the wealth that they own, what they could afford. Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu being a sharp leader, this is important for us to learn. Someone who's observant, who knows what's happening around him, not living in a cocoon or living in isolation no, he knew. So he realized that the Muslim public, the Muslims of Medina, their homes are more grander than the masjid. During the time the masjid was built, the masjid was at the same level of their homes. But over the next 12 years or more, the Muslims became wealthier in the masjid, and their homes became grander and of higher quality, structure and building and architecture and so forth. And the masjid still remained that humble original quality. So he realized that, and he made sure, he said, there's no way the masjid should be any less than our homes. So he demolished the masjid, and he ordered the masjid to be rebuilt to a quality higher than the level of the homes of the people of Medina during that time when they became wealthy. And after him, Sayyidina Uthman ibn Affan did the same thing, but because he was a billionaire, he actually did that at his own cost. He sponsored the whole masjid to be renovated again, to be even nicer at his own personal expense. We take from this that our masajid should be treated nicer than our homes. In all the ways, in every way possible. The building, the cleaning supplies, the level of employment we employ people in, the comforts that we should bring to the people that come as the guests of Allah, the service, the smiles, everything we could do. We should always strive to make it as beautiful as possible and never lesser quality than our homes and so forth, under the excuse that it's sentimental. I just wanted to clarify that trick of the shaitan versus the obvious trick of the shaitan and human nafs, that some people consume the entire budgets of their countries and states for their personal use and personal gain, and neglect their subordinates and their people, and that's another extreme. Rasulullah ﷺ was the most beautiful leader. He, as a leader, lived a humble life, but he made sure that everyone received and everyone was as comfortable as he could make them. And he himself made himself last when it came to the dunya. But he made sure that everyone around him was cared for as best as possible. He built the suffa in the back, the homeless shelter in his masjid. Whenever he would receive food, he would always send for them to take care of them. That kind of leadership is what we need, and we need to have it and navigate with that balance, always making sure that we prioritize others, we prioritize those who are under our amana, but we never use that as an excuse to serve at a lesser level or to provide lesser quality in any way, shape or form. Once again, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam avoided something that may or may not be sadaqah, so he can actually be above any type of controversy. And we should try to also avoid things that may put us in the may or may be right or wrong. Avoid that and try to do your best to do what is right, let alone people that consume things that are haram or they try to steal. And by the way, haram doesn't only mean khanzir and khamr. It also means when someone steals from their own siblings their inheritance. These are cases that I deal with almost on daily basis. And it really aches me and it irks me when I see siblings cheating their siblings from the estate that their father or mother left them. You are the person that's entrusted to take care of your sister. You are entrusted to take care of her. If your dad died and left nothing, you are responsible to take care of her. How dare you take what is hers, let alone taking care of her? It is important for us to avoid the haram things clearly. And the step higher is avoid things that may or may not be. Brothers and sisters, the 19th of January, inshallah, we have Fadila Sheikh Dr. Yasir Qadi. He will be visiting us to, inshallah, talk about Palestine. And it is important for us to come and be here for the khutbah as well. He will be giving the second khutbah, inshallah, I believe. And he's going to be having a 3-hour program, I believe, in the masjid as well, inshallah ta'ala. Bring your family and friends that evening. Sheikh Yasir Qadi is an extremely rare speaker to have. And it's very important for us to try to take advantage of this wonderful opportunity. And lastly but not least, Sister Maria Munir's Khal, her mamu, passed away today in Canada, and they are asking for your dua. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give him Jannatul Firdaus. May Allah have His mercy descend upon all the believers who've passed away. لا إله إلا الله الحليم الكريم سبحان الله رب العرش العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيبنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. اللهم يا فارج الهم ويا كاشف الغم فرج اللهم هم المهمومين ونفس كرب المكروبين وأصلح أحوالنا وأحوال المسلمين. اللهم ارحم موتانا وعاف مبتلانا. اللهم ارحم ميتنا واشف مريضنا واهد ضالنا وزوج أيمنا وارزق عقيمنا وآمن روعاتنا واستر عوراتنا واحفظ ذرياتنا واقض حوائجنا واغننا اللهم بك عمن سواك. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اللهم يا مجري السحاب ويا منزل الكتاب ويا هازم الأحزاب اهزم من قتل المسلمين وعاداهم. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من شرورهم ونجعلك في نحورهم. اللهم انصر عبادك المظلومين المستضعفين في غزة وفي فلسطين وفي كل مكان يا رب العالمين. اللهم عليك بكل من طغى وبغى وتجبر واعتدى فإنهم لا يعجزونك. اللهم إنا نبرأ إليك من حولنا وقوتنا إلى حولك وقوتك فلا حول ولا قوة إلا بك. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إنا كنا من الظالمين. اللهم اغفر لحينا وميتنا وشاهدنا وغائبنا وصغيرنا وكبيرنا وذكرنا وأنثانا. اللهم من أحييته منا فأحيه على الإسلام ومن توفيته منا فتوفه على الإيمان برحمتك يا حنان يا منان. اللهم اجعل خير أيامنا أواخرها وخير أعمالنا خواتمها وآخر كلامنا من الدنيا لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله ونحن مخلصين لك الدين حنفاء غير مشركين. اللهم اربط على قلوب أهله وذويه كما ربطت على قلب أم موسى.
ربنا اغفر لنا ولإخواننا الذين سبقونا بالإيمان ولا تجعل في قلوبنا غلا للذين آمنوا ربنا إنك رؤوف رحيم. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيبنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. جزاكم الله خيرا. Please enjoy some really nice snacks in the mirror hall. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good, how are you?
الله يجزيك خير.